On this episode of Carnage, we're preparing the ute to go even faster. Well, we are back at MPW for some fabrication stuff, and the reason for that is, if you haven't been paying attention, just over a week ago, we took the ute out for a run at Heathcote Park Raceway, and it went amazingly. Like, it went really well. I mean, we took a very measured approach. We went out there, did a 60-footer, did a half track, and then did a full pass, and on its first full pass, it went 887 at 156 miles an hour, which is just amazing. I mean, it was such a fantastic response. And I kind of got a laugh at all the people that gave us shit during the build. You know, there was a lot of comments, using the wrong parts, like, people didn't like ProFlow and they didn't like this and that sort of thing. But we proved that you can build an 8-second car using ProFlow parts. It's just an amazing result, and we're only going to go faster from here. And that is why we're here in the first place, because we are going to go faster. And the car needs some safety stuff. Like, we bought a parachute, so the boys are going to build a parachute mount for the car. We're going to put an Undertray under the engine, so to catch any errant fluids if something should happen with the engine, we don't end up with fluids under the tyre. We're going to try and maybe do some extra sensors and stuff too. And then you would have seen in that drag racing video that we kind of blew through the converter a bit. And so Simon at Allfast has a new converter on the way to us right now. So we'll put that in back at our shop. But in the meantime, we're going to get this up on the hoist so the boys can work their magic, make us up a parachute mount. We'll do the cable and the handle, and we're going to do the under tray under the front. So let's get it up so Abe can do some scanning. Alrighty. Oh, by the way, it's got a tow bar as well now.
Hey guys, so we're back here with the ute again. We're making a catchment device today on this. Once again, I'm using my trusty tool, the 3D scanner, to do so. We're going to take a 3D scan of the full underneath of this car, letting us go around, steering, arms, lines, these screamers, in fact, cooler piping. We can make an under tray that perfectly molds to the underneath of it. It's the way we do it now. We find it's a cleaner, easier setup with less oil and debris going to get out if it ever happens. So yeah, let's get onto it. We'll get it started scanning and we'll go from there. So this is a special 3D scanning spray by Appline. They've all got a lifetime of when they dissipate or evaporate. This one's 2 hours. It's an easy way, it's a delicate spray, so we don't worry about plastics and debris or having to wipe anything down afterwards. And all it does is give black things a bit of texture and clarity, so it's all around the same thing. Makes it so my scanner picks it up easier. So now that we've finished the scan here, you can see that we've got everything we need to make the under tray. I'll start to turn this into some file that we actually need, and then I'll start drawing around this, and we'll show you what it looks like in a sec with the under tray on it.
So here is our parachute. Oh, it's a Simpson chute. It's pretty much the same as what we used on the MX-5, I believe. So good for up to 200 mile an hour. So we're going to mount that on our new fancy bracket. Let's have a look.
And that should be perfect.
That should be fine.
Scotty's just trying to show me how good he is with his fingers after I apparently gave him the clap. But for the record, I did not give Scotty the clap. He had it well before he met me.
So what we might do is put a little a pinch bolt in there somewhere to locate it. Just make sure it doesn't rattle around. But yeah, we have a parachute mount.
So this has to be an inch
Is there
to
a-
comply with Andrew and IHRA tech.
Okay.
You can't just use a bolt like a 1/2 inch bolt. It has to have an inch diameter for your chute. So obviously it doesn't pull through.
Yeah.
So we just make a bush up, which is an inch with the 1/2 inch bolt through it.
Makes sense. To right or right to left?
Whatever floats your boat, mate, whichever way you're going to run your pins, so it doesn't hurt my OCD.
So now that Adam has welded our chute lever mount on, I'm going to run the cable through to the back. So, well, to start off with, let's go through the back of the cabin and work out where we go from there. All right, well that is enough. Let's just make sure it's tidy up the front first before we lock it in, but we have a chute and we have a handle. It's all good. Well, I have misplaced the bolt for the handle. I've got to make sure the handle is bolted to the cable, so that way I know where I'm trimming that. But we have a parachute, and shortly we'll have an Undertray. So it's all going well, and then very shortly this is going back on a tilt tray back to the Carnage, and we should have a converter shortly, so we can get the converter in. It'll be ready for racing, and we should run some pretty serious numbers. So anyway, let's get it back to the Carnage workshop, and that way we can get our converter in it, get it sorted, go racing. So here we are in the Carnage workshop. The ute has a parachute. It has an Undertray, which got fitted just as the car was getting picked up yesterday from MPW. So we didn't have a chance to have a very good look at it. So let's get the car up so we can have a look at our Undertray, which is amazing, by the way. The boys just knocked that out of the park. It looks amazing, but we also have to remove it so we can fit our new torque converter, which is here in a box. Let's have a look at that. So Simon at All Fast Torque Converters has smashed this out in record time. And yeah, this should make the ute go even faster. So there we are. .258, I think that's the stator size. And then for a turbo, bushed, heavy duty diode, billet. So billet base. So yeah, that's going to be amazing. All right, let's get the car up so we can get that in and get this thing going fast. So wow, this just looks amazing. The boys have knocked it out of the park. I mean, that 3D scanning technology is brilliant, and then obviously designing in CAD. So you saw the procedure. Abe scanned the entire underside of the front of the car, designed it in CAD, which took a few hours, no doubt, but then they cut it out on the plasma, all the material, then they've, you know, folded the sides, folded the bottom piece as well in a couple sections, and then welded it together. Then they did a test fit, and it fit straight out of the box. It fit perfectly. And then they powder coated it, and then we put it on, and again, like I said, it fits perfectly, which is just amazing. There's a cutout here, and there's a tube up in there, of course, for the screamer pipes. So that way, you know, if there is a fluid leak up there, it just sits in the tray. There's also a cutout here for our laser ride height sensor, so the wheel stand sensor. So if the car or the front of the car goes whop, you know, the laser sensor will measure how high that goes, and you know, cut power if we get too high. Well, it cuts timing and stuff first, you know, so make sure that it reduces the power, so that way if it starts climbing up on the ring gear, you know, it's not going to end up on the bumper like the Mazda used to. And then it goes under the transmission as well. I mean, so if we have a trans fluid failure of some sort, it gets caught in the tray as well. And then of course the high sides right here at the back means that the fluid, like, it's going to hold a lot of fluid, and that fluid is not going to end up under the tyres, which is what it's all about, you know. So wow, they've done an amazing job. And we were there just for what? We got the car there around 10ish. We were out of there by about 4:35. So in the space of, you know, 7 hours, including a lunch break, the parachute mount, the boys have done an amazing amount of work. So anyway, We need to pull this off now so we can get our converter up in there. So the beauty is we can undo the 3 here at the front, the 2 here at the back, and then there's this little pin here that retains it, and we push that, and then the whole thing will just pop down. And the same is when you put it back up, you can just push it up, clip it there, and it holds it in place so one person can actually attach the rest of the tray. That's pretty cool. All right, let's get it down. There we go. As easy as that. So the fun begins up the back here with removing the tail shaft. So we can drop that box down. There we go. Oh, that's heavy duty. I guess it would want to be heavy duty for an 8-second car, well, potentially 7-second. Right, so that should be the last bolt. Hopefully we can drop the box down and get this converter out. And drop it just a little bit. How about we go to there? Oh, yep, it's got me. Got me good, and I don't have enough clearance. Not blood, just trans fluid. Smells alright too. So we haven't cooked it or anything. Here we go. Oh. Whew. Wow, that was messy. Okay, so we'll put some fluid in this and then put it up in there. Do I have any trans fluid? That's a good question. I don't know if I do. Let me check. As it turns out, I did not have trans fluid, so I'm going to put some type F in it. Now some people go, but that's Ford transmission fluid. It kind of is. However, Simon at Allfast recommends this stuff, especially seeing he built the box. So we're going to use his recommendation, and we've done that from the start. So from the start of the Trolbo when it had the Turbo 400, the MX-5 when it had that glide in it, we've always done the Type F fluid, and it's worked for us, so we'll stick with it. Right, so we've got 2 bolts in the transmission at the moment. It's not fully bolted in yet because I've got part of the loom is just sort of not hard caught between the trans and the engine, but it's just loosely sitting in there, and I don't want to bolt it up completely and trap the loom in there because that'll cause us problems later on. And it is the big trap of bolting transmissions to engines in cars. You see it all the time. The guys get wires trapped between the trans and the engine. It causes them all sorts of dramas. So let's not do that. So I'm going to have to drop it down, pull the loom fully clear of that transmission, and then hopefully we can then just bolt it up together and it'll be all good. That's the plan. It looks all clear. Okay, I think that is tight enough. Oh, they're a pain in the balls. Anyway, all right, task shaft's back in. So gearbox and converter are technically, yeah, it's all in. It's not even technical, it's in. It's ready to go. Obviously we've got to tip some more fluid into it, but I'm gonna have to run it first, check the fluid level, put more fluid in it. There's a couple other things I want to do while I'm under here. I'm going to put longer bolts under here because I'm not happy with the length of that one. It's barely engaging the nylock, so replace those 2. Plus, if I go with, well, a longer bolt on this side, I can then use the bolt to mount our shock travel sensor, which is something else I want to do while I'm under here. So that's going to be awkward, isn't it? I just thought of a problem. All right, we'll come back to that. So we worked out what we're going to do with the shock sensor, but we'll get back to that. However, I need to do an oil change on this thing before I put the pan back on it. So let's do that. Always like to do oil changes before major race days or dyno days and stuff like that. So if you're just tooling around the workshop, just use the oil that's in it because it's just going to get contaminated by the E85 when the car's running, you know, really rich. But when you're about to take it out the racetrack, throw some new oil in it. I mean, yes, the oil we use is not cheap, so an oil change is the best part of, well, $200. But what's an engine cost? So might as well use fresh stuff. Yeah, it's definitely got some E85 contamination, but not too bad. Alrighty. Yeah. Ooh. Milky goodness. Gotta love that E85 life. There's a lot to be said for convenience. Certainly mounted that in the right place. oil change done. I guess let's put the pan on it, and then it'll be check trans fluid. We'll have to fire it up, circulate trans fluid, make sure the converter's full, and then check the dipstick, put more trans fluid in it, and then we'll be done. This is a Heathcote shock sensor. Well, actually, it's not technically a shock sensor, it's a linear position sensor, which means it can measure points from there to there, all right? So it's a sensor built into it, so it will measure wherever the rod is at. People use them for shock travel sensors. So the idea was that I was going to use that extended bolt and use like a blind nut on it that Heathcote actually sell them. They go on the end of your shock bolts, and then you can fit that like so. Trouble is, to turn this bolt around to face that way up the top, I don't have the room because I've got this bracket in the road. However, Matt came up with an excellent idea, and that was to mount the shock sensor basically off the interfering bracket, and then mount the bottom off the bolt like so, and that will measure everything we need to measure. As long as it's fixed in place and it doesn't, you know, move of its own accord, it'll be fine. So yeah, that's what we're going to do for that, but I still need to get the bit off Heathcote, so I'll get that, get them to send it down express, we'll mount it up, get that sorted, but up the front I want to hook up our wheelie sensor, so ride height sensor at the front, so I'll show you that. So this is the Heathcote ride height sensor. It's basically a little laser that measures the distance between that point and the ground, and if it exceeds a certain parameter, and based off what data that you put in the ECU, it will start pulling timing, so therefore pulling power out of the car. So if it gets, you know, like 1.5 feet in the air, it'll start pulling timing and power quite quickly, so you don't end up on the bumper like the Mazda used to do. Now, we were going to put one of these in the Mazda, but then we decided to sell the Mazda off because the car was getting pretty sketchy, and this car is a lot safer. But we're going to put the sensor in there anyway, and just make sure we have no problems with wheel stands. So just got to put this little O-ring and lens in the cap. So the O-ring goes first, lens second. There we go. And then this lead here, which come down from above, we'll run it there along the rack, we'll tie it into place, but yeah, basically make sure I've got it plugged in correctly. Alright, I'll just cable tie that into place away from the exhaust, and we're good to go. Right, here we go. So to finish things off, I've got to make sure we get enough trans fluid in it. But to do that, I need to start it up, run it for a little bit, and circulate the fluid, and then see how much we need to add. well, it definitely needs some fluid, so let's add a little bit. Oh yeah, she definitely needs a bit. Yeah, it looks full to me. All right, we'll start her up, run it through the gears again, see how it feels. So it feels all right. So I guess we do a two-step check, see where it's at. Okay, so it's definitely coming up, but it actually came up a little bit too far because I think it fell outside of the parameters that Adam had set before. This is something he did at the track the other week as well. So I'm going to have to get Adam to come over and reset those parameters, make sure that's fine, but we definitely get it up over 4 grand. You know, it went past 4.5 to be honest. But it's there, it's coming up. Hopefully it locks up down the track. I'm sure it will. So I guess this weekend, we're going to take it out there, run some numbers, see how it goes. So you'll see that on a future episode of Carnage.